Hi there, and welcome back to another episode at Station Road. Now, as the title suggests, I'm kind of in two minds about what project to get onto next on the Station Road layout, and I thought what better way to tackle this decision than to actually ask you guys what you might like to see come up next on the Station Road channel. So also included in this short video, I'm just going to do a brief introduction and a little bit of info on an upcoming model railway convention here in New Zealand. Now, I know that this may not apply to most of my viewers because I think the percentage of New Zealand viewers is quite small, but nonetheless I thought I'd get it out there, and hopefully some of the folk here in New Zealand might be able to catch a glimpse of what's coming up for this convention. So there's two projects on the layout that I'd really like to tackle, and I'm kind of struggling to make a decision which one to crack on with. Now, as some folk have mentioned in the past, I do have a habit of moving on to another project before I've completed the one that I had going in the first place. It's just really the way that I work and kind of prefer to work. I think there comes a time during a project that maybe if I've spent just so much time on it in one particular area of the layout that I kind of lose the enthusiasm to carry on with it, particularly if it's been a project that's been going along for some time. And so it's quite refreshing to sort of maybe park a slightly incomplete project and move on to something new, just to keep that enthusiasm going. So there's two key projects. One I will call Project A, and the other I will call Project B. And what I'll do now is I'll briefly run through what each project involves, and then I'll leave it to you, my viewers, to decide what maybe you would like to see next on the Station Road layout. So we'll start with this area over here, which of course is the area that's featured quite a bit recently in a number of videos. So we'll call this Project A, and although it kind of looks mostly complete, there is actually still quite a number of elements and modelling components still to do in this area. So I'll just run through what really still needs to be done and some further thoughts I've also had at the same time about additional elements that weren't originally planned. So one of the things that needs to be sorted out is finishing off the scenic detailing, particularly of this area here. Now, this really is only the base level of scenic, so there's still a lot more to do. There's trees to put in, there is more sort of bramble type vegetation and overgrowth and weeds and things that are going to run along here. And there's also some ideas that I'm going to adopt from some previous comments, and one in particular was the idea of having a ladder coming up from this backyard or courtyard area, and maybe some kids have put the ladder there and they've got access up onto this embankment, and we'll have some trees and maybe a swing, and I might even consider possibly a little tree house. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I can't remember the person who made that comment, but it's a really nifty little idea. There's going to be sort of junk and things around in this area, kegs, barrels. I also sort of thought maybe some old broken bits of furniture that have been hurled up onto this embankment from maybe a boozy night at the pub, from some hooligans who've been throwing stuff up onto the bank. And that parking area here too also needs to have some form of tarmac. Now, I was sort of making it kind of semi-derelict and maybe a bit overgrown in some of the area here, but also where cars have been coming in and parking up on this side. So further to that, there is of course the tarmac for the street itself, there is the road markings, there is street lights that need to be added in as well. So moving a bit further over, as we know, I've just recently completed this scale scenes kit bashed corner building here, and now I've really got to sort of finalise and complete the back scene around this particular area. And of course one of the processes in doing the tarmac for this road is trying to get an even sort of colour match with the bit of street in both these areas that are on the back scene, and I can't really do that until I've got this road complete. But the idea, like I did with this building, is I'll actually patch in some new areas of back scene print so we can actually get a reasonably good match and hopefully get rid of the sort of hard edge line that we have, particularly on this one down here. Now, more on the back scene, I'm actually thinking of putting some additional industrial buildings in the background, sort of protruding up above this building, and once again as a add-on patch, and sort of tying it in behind this corner building as well, so that we've got a bit of a roof line coming up here somewhere, and potentially a little bit of a far distant view of further industrial buildings and behind there. Then we sort of move down to this area, and I'm kind of thinking of maybe more brambles and things like that, and overgrown grass, maybe some longer strands of grass in various areas. But also I'm thinking of possibly some people throwing bits and pieces and old appliances or wooden pallets have been strewn down this embankment and kind of just left there to decay. So yeah, there's quite a sort of number of those kind of like little wee details that really do make a scene. And then of course, now that this track I know for sure is not going to change, I'm pretty confident I can actually start to ballast this bit of track in this section through to possibly towards the end of the signal box down there. So although it looks like it's nearly finished, there's actually still quite a bit to do in this area, and it's mainly sort of kind of fiddly, small, finer details and components that need adding in. So the other area that's in the hat is this area here, and we're essentially looking at the area from this point here heading back right to the terrace houses at the back, and the area that covers a line that runs underneath. And I think this was mentioned in a video some time back, the issues with clearance for trains coming through underneath, and initially I had sort of kind of hacked away at the baseboard there and kind of wished I hadn't now, but nevertheless we can sort of fix that area up. But what I intend to do here is basically cut this baseboard all the way through here between these two tracks, and the track by the platform will remain at its current level, and then all of this section here will be raised up to a slightly higher level. So we're probably looking at a retaining wall along here that might be about so high, and then this whole area becomes at a different level. And if we take a look, we have the track that runs down and around this curve here, so back at that point would be the current level, and then this line here would come up on a very subtle gradient. So I don't want to make it too high. We might only be looking at maybe an inch higher than what it currently is. So in the process of actually raising this whole level, and I think I'm not going to salvage this baseboard, I'm just going to start from scratch in this area, but retain the buildings and the shops and the goods shed, and possibly actually realign how this yard is a little bit. And one of the areas too that I wouldn't mind actually reincorporating back in was this small sort of goods siding here that actually ran through the cobblestones. That kind of actually got omitted some time back because of the curve of this track, but I could probably reintroduce it if I push these shops actually further along. So rather than these shops being here, they'll be back about here somewhere, which may mean I can include more shops down at that end. So this is quite a large project in itself, and at the same time I can actually sort out the points correctly, because some are actually surface mount point motors, because I couldn't have access underneath here because of beams running through. So essentially I can sort of remodel this entire area through here. So that we're going to call Project B, and that in itself, there's, as I said, quite a considerable amount of work in that, but at the same time this would be spread out over many episodes, where we start with the main structure and then slowly work our way up, and then once I've got the structure in, then I can really sort of work on the scenic side of things. It's kind of a little bit why I've left this as it is for quite some time. So I've set up a poll on the community tab of the Station Road channel, and I'll also pop a link in the description below, and it's just a simple case of choosing or voting for which project you'd like to see come up next on Station Road. So I'll keep the poll open for the next week, and then at the end of next week I'll just sort of see how it's going and just see which project might come out on top. So moving on to this model railway convention that I briefly mentioned at the beginning, there is quite a extensive model railway convention coming up here in Christchurch in October. Now this convention is quite an extensive 3-day event in the beginning of October, and it incorporates guest speakers, there is workshops, there is layout tours, there is all manner of action and activity going on for this weekend, and I'll put a link in the description below for the Model Railway Convention website. There is also a Facebook page as well, and essentially it is open for registrations, and we also have early bird registrations which are actually about to run out at the end of this month. So if you're keen to attend this convention, head over to the website. There is a registration page there where you can download a form to register, and there is also a lot of other information about the convention, what's on, who the guest speakers are, and all the workshops and other bits and pieces like that. I'll be attending the convention myself, so it'll be absolutely fantastic to see you there if you're able to make it along. So there we have it for this episode. It's certainly going to be interesting seeing the results come in for the 2 projects on the Station Road layout. So I'm certainly going to be looking forward to next week and figuring out what project I'm actually going to end up working on. So do take care everyone, look after yourselves, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Bye for now.